Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on on the impact of rare conditions on self-identity. We will have our dear panelists with us today. In the meantime, while we wait everyone to connect, I would love you to share your name and the city and country where you're connecting from today. For example, I'm Concha Mayo. Most of you might know me. I'm connecting from Barcelona, Spain. I work for Eurordis, and I'm so happy to welcome you to this session and to welcome our panelists today. So let me see, who do we have here? We have Amel from Toulouse, France, Juliette Sinclair from I missed it. It's running so quickly. Andrew from Dublin, Jean-Baptiste from Switzerland. This is great. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let me start with sharing our agenda for this afternoon. I will present her in a minute, Ana Espinó. She's president of the Hellenic Cystic Fibrosis Association. She's a person living herself with cystic fibrosis, but she's also a member of the Eurordis board of directors. After Ana Espinó, we will have a keynote speech by Sophie Turner. Sophie lives with achondroplasia, which is a kind of dwarfism. She's originally from Australia, and she now resides in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us today. After Sophie, we will have a brief Q&A session. So any questions you have for her, that would be the moment to raise your hands or write in the chat. Then Rebecca, she will lead in our panel. Rebecca Tweed, she's also a member of Eurordis board. She's been living as well with a kind of a condition related to osteogenesis imperfecta. And she's an IPAC member, and she's also part of Osteogenesis Imperfecta Federation. She will present you the speakers for the panelists, and then we will have 20 minutes Q&A session, and Anna will finalize the session with some closing remarks. So the floor is all yours, Anna.
Thank you, Concha. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. It's wonderful to have you all here from so many European countries. As we all know, living with a rare condition has a profound impact on who we are, on how we see ourselves, and it can very often bring some questions like who I really am I defined by my condition, or how can I build a fulfilling life despite all these challenges? And these are questions that I've struggled with personally. As a person living with cystic fibrosis, I know how deeply a rare disease can influence our sense of self, our relationships, or how we connect with the world. So today we are going to discuss these complex and powerful themes together. We are going to explore how self-identity is transformed at different stages of life, the role of families, the role of caregivers in shaping to these identities, the strategies to overcome the stigma, to increase our self-acceptance, and the importance of connecting with people with the same condition. And what is more, how rare conditions can help us find purpose in our life and connect to the community. So we have a fantastic lineup of speakers. I hope this webinar will be a space of inspiration, of empowerment, and of understanding. So we can begin. Sophie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you, Concha, for that wonderful introduction. Hi, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen. Concha, I think I need to, we need to swap.
I think you should be able now, Sophie.
Yeah. Okay. Can everyone see the title page and it's full screen? Fantastic. Yeah, so I'm really honored actually to have been asked to present the keynote speech today for this very, very important webinar, the impact of rare diseases and conditions on self-identity. I've titled my speech Embracing Differences because I think that's a really nice way of putting it. So the overview of what I just quickly go over today, I'll just quickly cover, if you guys haven't had a chance already, may have seen, I recently did a testimonial for Eurodis on my personal journey and impact living with a rare condition. I live with a form of dwarfism called achondroplasia. I'll then go through what that has been like for me, the emotional journey alongside with the societal barriers. I then wanted to cover an interesting topic, the psychology of activism. So the psychology around people living with rare diseases and conditions and their efforts to promote awareness and promote change. And then finally, my experiences with finding identity beyond the condition. So before I begin, I just wanted to have a quick acknowledgement. My experiences with a rare condition are personal and may not relate to everyone in the Eurodis or the rare condition, rare disease community. I acknowledge that every story is unique, and it's actually also really essential to acknowledge and respect the diverse challenges we all encounter. So my perspective today is purely mine, but I hope there are at least some points that you can relate to. So living with dwarfism, I mentioned that I have the medical name I have is achondroplasia. It's a genetic disorder that is actually the most common form of dwarfism. And it's actually characterized by sort of abnormal bone growth, resulting in disproportionate stature and shorter limb lengths. So my torso is kind of, I guess, the normal size, but my upper arms and my upper legs, the bones are shorter. It's caused by a mutation, the FGFR3 gene, which actually affects how the cartilage develops into bone. And it's considered rare because it occurs in approximately 1 in 20,000 live births. And the condition, or the cause of this is not yet known. People with this form of dwarfism, achondroplasia, typically have an average, we live a normal lifespan. We're fortunate that, we have no severe health impacts. We lead full active lives, but we find that possibly the biggest issues faced by individuals with achondroplasia or more so dwarfism is societal acceptance. The way that society perceives and responds to differences often creates, additional emotional and actual psychological challenges. So the struggle for acceptance can lead to feelings of isolation, self-doubt, further complicating the physical health challenges associated with this condition. And someone living with a rare condition, this has shaped my experiences and interactions with day-to-day life, from a very young age. I often felt that I was different from my peers, which really influenced my sense of identity. Through my life, though, I've, continually encountered various challenges ranging from accessibility issues to social misconceptions. Being small, I'm often infantized. Immediately, people look at me, they think I'm a child, not a woman in her mid-30s. But this journey has really taught me resilience. It's taught me self-advocacy and really the importance of community. By sharing my experiences with you with achondroplasia, with dwarfism, I want to aim to raise awareness about the challenges individuals face and the misconceptions around dwarfism. Personal stories humanize any condition that you have, whether it's dwarfism, whether it's OI, whether it's something else. you know, and it helps others to empathize with our experiences and understand the emotional and social impacts of living with rare diseases or rare conditions. You know, sharing our journeys is not only empowers us, but also encourages others to advocate for themselves and their communities too, promoting, you know, inclusivity and understanding. And so by discussing my journey with achondroplasia, I hope to illuminate the complexities of self-identity and highlight the importance of fostering connections through shared experiences. So let's talk about the emotional journey. And when I talk about the emotional journey, I'm coming from a point of the internal self-identity, so how I feel inside. So living with a rare condition such as achondroplasia can lead to a real complex journey, a complex emotional journey, sorry, that, yeah, really significantly impacts self-identity. You know, individuals may experience a range of emotions, including frustration, sadness, isolation, as, you know, they try to navigate the challenges internally of their condition. It doesn't help when there's the societal influence with that. The stigma and misunderstanding surrounding rare conditions can amplify these feelings, making it essential to actually address the emotional well-being of anyone affected with a rare disease or a rare condition. The way in which I found through myself in living in my self-ID, living with a rare condition, is the way I like to sort of put it to help me deal with it. I like to put it in the perspective of mapping the grieving process. Now, you know, the emotional journey of living with a rare condition, it often mirrors stages of grief, you know, which can include the following, like denial. You know, people initially struggle to accept the reality of their condition, leading to feelings of disbelief, feelings of numbness, anger, you know, the stage where you're feeling frustrated, where you're feeling resentment towards yourself, or you're feeling resentment towards others, or even the condition itself. You know, bargaining. Individuals, you know, or people may find themselves wishing for things to be different, contemplating what they could have done to, or, you know, what if to change their situation. For me personally, bargaining, what I found is I went through a phase when I was in my early 20s where I thought if I changed my hair color and had a really cool hairstyle every different month, then that would be enough for people to not pay attention to my physical condition, rather than you know, reinventing my own identity, rather than they would focus on my amazing hair every time, rather than focusing on me. That was me bargaining with life in trying to navigate this. And then, of course, we have depression. And I didn't mention anxiety, but this is also a key part too. You know, feelings of sadness, hopelessness. I know for me specifically, you know, they come and go every now and then, but, you know, they can arise as a weight of the condition and its implications that, you know, when it really sinks in. Then hopefully when you go through this grieving process, and everyone is different, and sometimes for me, the stages, you know, we come to acceptance. You know, ultimately acceptance involves coming to terms with the condition and finding ways to move forward, you know, and integrating it into your identity. In my experience, yeah, I've navigated these stages at different points in my life. Yeah, for example, I definitely felt denial early on. Being a rare condition, I never saw anyone else around me with my condition, and yeah, I was definitely in denial of being different. But you know, struggling to understand and accept my height, being someone with dwarfism and the implications of that. But, you know, as I moved through the phases, especially the anger phase was a big one for me, being frustrated at the societal perceptions and my limitations, eventually I learned to embrace acceptance, you know, recognizing that my condition is only one part of who I am. So it's really important, well, I think it's to highlight the importance of actually acknowledging these feelings and experiences. So validation, for example, acknowledging feelings is really crucial for emotional healing. It's actually essential to recognize that experiencing a wide range of emotions is normal and valid. So whether you want to define it as the grieving process and map it out like I had it in the previous slide, it's actually really important for your self-identity to validate that it's okay to feel angry, that it's okay to be in denial, or it's okay to feel depressed. That's why it's so important to have or create safe spaces for people to share their experiences, foster connection and understanding, allowing for that collective healing. You're not in this alone. You may be living with a rare condition or a rare disease, but there are communities that may not relate directly to you, or there are people that want to be your allies and that support you in that healing process. So engaging with support groups or communities can really help people feel less isolated and provide, that platform for sharing feelings and experiences. Today's webinar is one perfect example for that. So by understanding the emotional journey and the stages of grief, I think we can really better support ourselves and others in the rare disease or rare condition community, ultimately fostering resilience and acceptance. I'm now going to move on to the external ID. So this is more the societal barriers. The external ID being how I see myself or how we see ourselves from external factors or external influences. So stigma and discrimination, this is a really great one. I know Eurydice recently did a literacy review, sorry, which is really fascinating because there are actually different themes and layers of stigma. But broadly speaking, stigma refers to the negative attitudes and beliefs that society holds towards people with rare conditions or rare diseases or rare conditions. And that actually can manifest as discrimination and exclusion, which impacts how people are perceived and treated. In my journey living with achondroplasia, I've definitely experienced stigma in various forms, such as being judged on how my condition is portrayed in pop media. How if they see someone, actor with dwarfism who's making fool of themselves, then they instantly connect me with that person, or they instantly connect that I am to be laughed at or to be mocked. But these really, my experiences, really highlight the broader societal challenges, I think, faced by everyone and anyone with a rare condition. That stigma and discrimination is real. Additional societal barriers, of course, we have physical barriers. Individuals with or people with rare conditions and diseases, often incur physical barriers such as inadequate accessibility in public spaces. For example, facilities may not be designed to accommodate diverse physical needs, making it really challenging for people who need it to just navigate their environments. I know for sure I have difficulty going to the local supermarket and buying milk. That's something so basic, but it's something that we have to just think about and navigate. The social barriers, socially, the lack of awareness and understanding about rare conditions can really lead to a sense of exclusion. Many people report about feeling isolated or marginalized in group settings where experiences are not even recognized or valued. And then thirdly, economic barriers. So economically, people with rare conditions or diseases can face additional challenges. There's high medical costs, limited access to specialized care, and potential discrimination in employment can, add to this sort of, or it can create sort of financial instability and stress. And how does this impact, on self-perception and identity? I think, I said that this was external ID, but this is sort of how these external IDs impact your internal ID. you know, we definitely have a sense, or I know sometimes in points in my life, I've had a sense of internalized stigma. So the stigma associated with, you know, rare conditions or diseases can actually lead to people to internalize negative perceptions, which affects, you know, their self-esteem and sense of identity. For example, for me, I've often found myself grappling with how society views my height, which sometimes leads me to question my own worth and capabilities. It can be really challenging to recognize my identity as a person with achondroplasia, with the often limited perceptions others have of individuals as a whole with dwarfism. You know, and in addition to that, it then leads to isolation and loneliness. So the societal barriers can foster feelings, of real that you're alone, that you're really isolated in this. You are just yourself, you know, as people really, find it difficult to connect with others who don't share or don't give them the time to understand their challenges. So strategies for empowerment. I think raising awareness about conditions, rare diseases and rare conditions is really crucial for combating stigma. Sharing stories, experiences can foster understanding and empathy within communities. You know, joining advocacy groups provides people with a collective voice to challenge discrimination and promote inclusivity in various aspects of life. Personally, for me, being involved in advocacy has really, really empowered me to stand up for my rights and for those of others in similar situations. Achondroplasia is just one form of dwarfism. It's the most common form of dwarfism, but there are so many other different causes of the condition of dwarfism. It's also really incredibly motivating to work alongside people who share similar goals and similar experiences. You know, building a community when you're creating and participating in support networks can really help people with rare diseases and conditions, you know, to connect with others who understand their journey, you know, fostering that sense of belonging and resilience. So combating that feeling that society is making you feel isolated and alone, building on that community reminds you and gives you that sense of belonging relating to your ID. I think recognizing these impacts and implementing strategies to foster understanding and acceptance are really essential for creating a more inclusive and supportive environment for people with rare conditions and rare diseases. The next point I'm going to move on to is the psychology of activism. Just one moment. Oh, sorry about that. So this is actually really, I'm a bit of a psychology nerd. I really love the mind and how it works. So I hope that this is a topic that you guys might find quite interesting. It's really activism in the context of rare diseases and conditions. So what is activism? I'm just going to briefly say it. It's the active pursuit of social political change aimed at addressing injustice and advocating for the rights and needs of marginalized groups. Everyone knows this. In the context of rare diseases and conditions, in my experience, activism involves sort of raising awareness, promoting research, and actually fighting for better healthcare and access to policies. The importance for activism and rare conditions, rare diseases, it's actually crucial in amplifying our voices, you know, combating that stigma that I was mentioning before and advocating for resources and support. It mobilizes communities to share their experiences and, you know, push for necessary changes in society and healthcare. There are two, going back to the psychological factor, there are two points of activism though, healthy activism versus wounded activism, and I'll explain that. So healthy activism emerges from a place of curiosity, empathy, and a desire or a passion to create a positive change. It focuses on constructive dialogue and collaboration, aimed at building awareness and fostering understanding. So, for example, engaging in community events that celebrate inclusion and educating others about rare diseases or conditions. Wounded activism, on the other hand, though, often stems from, unresolved pain, anger, trauma. It can manifest as reactive, impulsive actions driven by frustration rather than sort of constructive engagement. And an example of that would be, advocating aggressively without considering the broader impact, on the relationships or the community perceptions, which can also potentially lead to burnout of the activists themselves. So the role of curiosity in activism, I mentioned to you the healthy activism, it starts with curiosity. So curiosity, it really does play a vital role because it inspires individuals to start asking questions and to seek a deeper understanding. It also encourages activists to explore, actual diverse perspectives and solutions. By fostering a genuine interest in the experience of others, activists can build connections and forge alliances to strengthen their efforts. For example, in my own advocacy work, I found that staying curious about the challenges faced by others within the rare disease or rare condition community has actually enriched my perspective, and it's actually really enhanced my ability to advocate a lot effectively. I definitely know there was points where I came from wounded activism where I thought, this is so unfair, this is just not right, how can people not see this? But actually coming from a place of curiosity, then you approach it at a much better viewpoint or a much better mindset. The connection now between activism and self-identity, because after all, we are today in a webinar discussing rare conditions or rare diseases and self-identity. Engaging in activism can actually significantly influence one's self-identity. For people with rare conditions, activism provides, a platform to reclaim their narrative, to assert their identity, beyond their condition. When we talk about self, because I won't go too much into it, but they talk about the internal family systems. So yourself, your core, your soul versus parts. The core identity is curious and open to understanding about yourself, but there are various parts of yourself, in our psychological development that is created, which is caused in response to life experiences, to trauma, to unmet needs. A lot of these parts, people living with a rare condition or rare disease, have them. We have faced trauma, or we do have unmet needs. And this can lead to different types of activism. So exile-led activism could be driven by feelings of isolation and pain. Manager-led activism focused on control and perfectionism in self-presentation, or even fighter-led activism, which is reactions to external pressures, which often leading to sort of these or can lead to impulsive actions. Individuals with, rare diseases and conditions often experience a range of emotions and thoughts, relating to their identity and their experiences. This internal family systems framework helps to understand, or has helped me to understand these conflicting feelings that may come from different parts of your psyche. So being driven by pain, or being driven by trauma. Or being driven by painful memories, or trying to get control of something that you feel you have no control over. But through activism, people can actually find a real purpose and meaning in their experiences, transforming challenges into opportunities for growth and empowerment. Community and belonging, and how that connects to the ID, being a part of a collective movement fosters a sense of belonging and solidarity, reinforcing one's identity as an advocate and a change maker. And I really think, this connection can be essential for people who may feel isolated due to their rare condition or disease, as it actually links their personal story to a larger narrative of resilience and change. So understanding the psychology of activism sort of really reveals how it can empower individuals and communities to advocate for change, fostering that sense of identity and belonging, while actually actively challenging the stigma associated with their rare diseases or conditions. And just quickly, why is this relevant? I know I've tried to make it as short and quick as possible, but why is this relevant? It helps us to understand conflict. So this internal family system framework, helps us to navigate conflicting emotions relating to our identity. It helps us heal from pain. It allows us to, access the sort of parts that we've carried with emotional burdens, fostering resilience. It also promotes self-acceptance, empowering individuals to sort of integrate their experiences into their identity. Of course, for advocacy, your individual curiosity and compassion, it encourages effective advocacy and helps to reduce that frustration. Definitely, it helps with addressing stigma. It assists in challenging internalized stigma, fostering healing and promoting understanding. So in summary, the IFS, or the Internal Family System Framework, it really offers a compassionate sort of way for emotional healing, self-acceptance, and can result in effective advocacy for those living with rare diseases and conditions. So I'm just moving on to the last part now, finding identity beyond the condition. This is focusing more on me a bit more now. So self-acceptance, of course, self-acceptance is so crucial for people living with rare diseases or conditions, is of course, it allows us to embrace our uniqueness without shame. But it does involve recognizing one's condition just as one aspect of our identity rather than a defining feature. For me, learning to accept my height or restricted height and the challenges associated with dwarfism was a journey. It's really a journey, and it's a journey that I'm nowhere near finishing. Initially I struggled with feelings of inadequacy, always comparing myself to others, especially being a female. Over time, though, I realized that I could actually celebrate my differences and understand that my value extends beyond my physical appearance, which was really great for me. This acceptance has really empowered me to advocate for myself and for others. It's shifted my focus for sure from how society perceives me to how I actually perceive myself. The value of community connections. I think building connections with others who also share similar experiences is vital. A supportive community can really provide validation, understanding, and encouragement, fostering that sense of belonging that you may not get, when you go to your supermarket or in your workplace, for example. I found a network, like a personal story to me about this. I actually found a network of people living with dwarfism, specifically achondroplasia, through local support groups and online forums and so forth. Sharing our stories and challenges, has created a really safe space for connection and understanding. And one really, really memorable moment for me in terms of this community connection was when I attended a conference in America. It was one of the biggest gatherings of people with my condition. And it was the first time that I'd seen so many people like me. I think there was about 2,000 or 3,000 people there. Even just seeing them being together in a room, it was just empowering for me. And then learning about how they'd also navigated their paths and supported one another was really impactful. I think these connections not only help me feel less isolated, but also, they inspired and they continue to inspire me, to engage more actively in advocacy work, knowing that, it's not just me alone, that I am a part of a much larger movement. So my story of transformation, I kind of feel like a transformation sort of seems like it's happened. I feel like I'm constantly evolving and transforming every day, but just an end note to share. You know, transforming my identity from being defined by my condition to embracing my role as an advocate has been really, really significant, and that's an understatement. You know, I started by sharing my experiences at you know, small local community events aimed at aiming to educate others about dwarfism and obviously an attempt to reduce that stigma. But really, it's been, of course, a part of personal growth. So through this journey, I've learned the power of vulnerability. You know, by sharing my challenges, I've connected with many people who have expressed their gratitude for raising awareness. And it's reaffirmed my belief that our stories can really spark change. I encourage everyone to seek out community connections and embrace self-acceptance. You know, each person's journey is unique, and sharing our experiences can not only help us heal, but also actually empower and inspire others, others that may also live with a similar condition to you. So in closing, finding identity beyond a rare disease or condition involves, you know, embracing self-acceptance and building community connections, which ultimately, for me, has led to, a real personal transformation and empowerment.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course. If anyone wants to follow more what I'm doing a lot of advocacy work at the moment. Please scan the QR code or jump on the website. But yes, thank you for hearing my story.
Thank you, Sophie. That was wonderful. I think people resonated a lot with your presentation and your talk. And I would like now to give the floor to Rebecca.
Thank you, Concha. So thank you very much, Sophie Turner, for a great talk. I mean, there is so much there that we could dissect and dive further into. And I think that is what we want to do in this part of the session. With me today, I have a panel of 5. My name is Rebecca Tvedt Skalberg. Concha, I think you might have forgot my last name, but that's okay in the beginning.
Sorry.
But I have 5 great people here with me today. You've already heard Sophie Turner speak. I also have David Ross here. And David, he is from PTEN organization. And I have Kate Tyler here. She is she lives with a rare malformation. And I have Claes Raoul here. He has neurofibromatosis, and Anna Spino from cystic fibrosis. And I will only very briefly give you just a brief sentence about them, because they will definitely tell you more about themselves as we get on with this part of the session. Sophie talked a little bit about these first impressions. I mean, the reason we are all connected here today is because we have a rare condition. And it might be the first or the last thing that people notice when we get to know them. How do we strike a balance between this recognition that we do have a rare condition, but also not being seen as only a person with a rare condition? I mean, there should be room to be a whole person, right? So if we think about these first impressions, many of us have heard that first impressions really count. They are very, very important. How do we handle them when we have a rare disease? Have any of our panelists given this any thought? Do you, like me, find that this is kind of like difficult situations because you have the choice? You can either tell them about your condition in the first 10 minutes, or you can decide to tell them everything but your condition. Anyone? Have you had any thoughts?
Can I share my thoughts?
Yes.
Okay. I think that first impressions are very complicated when you have an invisible disease, like in my case, like CF. You have to decide if you want to speak about the disease or not. But I think that this depends on the relationship with the person that you are speaking with. For example, if it's a casual interaction, I will not explain. I will keep it simple. I will just say that I have a condition that affects my lungs, so you might notice me coughing, but I'm okay. It's not flu, it's not COVID, it's not contagious. Now, in case that it's a deeper connection, I try to be honest. I try to share enough information to help the person to understand. And what I have learned is that I don't owe anyone my full story unless I feel comfortable. I think that what matters most is presenting myself as a whole person and beyond my rare condition, beyond CF. I think that this is very important to think about it.
I agree. We don't owe anybody our life stories. But what is the right amount of information? I think that's a very difficult boundary. Kate, have you thought anything about that?
I think it's absolutely a very difficult situation, a difficult boundary. I don't think there's a hard and fast rule. And I think very much what Anna was saying, that the people who you feel safe, that you trust, sometimes you do have to say that this, particularly with the cystic fibrosis, that it's not COVID or it's not infectious. I have a respiratory condition as well, and that kind of applies. But you just have to work out when is the right time to share and not share too much. And also that you are far more than your condition. And the majority of people see that. And actually, if people want to judge you when they hear you coughing badly, or in my case, because of I have continence issues, if they want to make an assessment or a judgment, those are really not the people who I need close in my life. They're not the people who are going to be the forever people.
Yeah.
They're not going to value me for who I am beyond my condition.
Yeah.
If I were, yes?
No. I was going to say, can I add something to
Yes.
that? Because and this I'm talking more about people with a visible condition. So I understand that invisible condition is a whole different complex or different situation. I find it really interesting because I do talk to a lot of people about this, about going for jobs, for example, right? And there are some people in the community, the rare condition community, where they say that they listed on their resume that they have a physical disability, or that they live with this or they live with that. Whereas, for me, I kind of think, well, why do we do that actually? Because your physical, I mean, unless your condition maybe relates to, you have to work reduced hours, or you need extra time off or something like that. Why should we have to explain ourselves? But I know it's like I don't know if there's necessarily the best way or not. I use the example of going for a job, of course, because everything's done without visibility first. You're applying online, you're putting your life on a piece of paper, and you're writing a letter to get people. And then when you get to that chance where you're meeting them face to face, for me, I know that the first impressions, even myself, first impressions, I maybe sometimes make bias on things I see instantly, or people that things I see or whatever. But to me personally, it's I'm more like, it doesn't define you. It doesn't make you incapable of any different of doing something. So why should you have to sell yourself? I think maybe sometimes if you just go with it and be like, well, I'm still normal, then maybe you don't have to sell yourself. In addition, you don't have to sort of explain your condition, kind of thing.
I agree with you, Sophie, but I've also kind of learned the hard way that it's good to sometimes clear some questions, practical questions, out of the way. I could just very briefly share that the first job interview I went to, I decided that I was not going to talk about my disability at all. I was just going to talk about my qualifications. And I went through the whole interview with not explaining about my disability. And then at the end, they said, "Oh, we just have one question. We hope you don't feel offended, but can you use the lift by yourself? Are you able to press the lift button and get in and out of the lift by yourself?" And I was completely shocked, because I thought, and I was, of course, a bit offended, because how did they think that I had made it into that room if I had difficulty taking the lift? So I had to actually go and show them that I could go in and out of the lift. And then we had cleared that out of the way, and I did get the job. So sometimes it's just about clearing the practical stuff away, because people are wondering, but that can be done very short and not like a whole lecture.
Yeah, indeed.
So moving on then, when we have a rare condition, it's often said that a rare condition affects the whole family. And parents, they describe that having a child with a rare condition can be like entering a totally different world. And I don't know if you have read it, but there's a famous poem by Emily Kingsland called Landing in Holland. And it's about getting on a plane that you think is going to Italy, but it actually lands in Holland. And that's supposed to be a kind of like a description of how it is to expect a child without a disability and then getting a child with a disability. Have you heard, is this recognizable to you? Have you heard parents describe these similar feelings? I see you are nodding there, Klaus.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Being a parent of a daughter who is affected by rare disease, I was in that situation myself. When we received the diagnosis, my daughter was 7 months old. And until that point, or until she was 3 months old, there was no clinical signs of anything going on health-wise. So we were super happy, over the moon, that we have our first child and that it's a healthy child, because you want your child to be safe. And every disorder is, a danger to the health of your child, and you want your child to be protected. So when we learned about the diagnosis, it was like our life was going this direction. We had all these dreams and all these expectations maybe of what will be, and suddenly there was a U-turn, an unexpected U-turn, and we were not realizing where we are at right now. It was really confusing, frightening, really scary, and it's hard to find the words, what's going on, in your head during that time. It's really, really confusing and very, very frightening. But then really, I think maybe you go through first, like Sophie showed, you go maybe through this phase of denial and you don't want it to be true. You think maybe this is just a nightmare. I'm going to wake up and everything will be just fine. And you have to go through these phases of grievance. But because otherwise I think for us, one important realization was, stop asking why this happened, because it will just make you go in circles. It's nature. It's like it happens all the time. It's part of our mankind. Like any genetic disorders are part of not only mankind, also in the animal world. And you shouldn't ask why this happened. You should ask yourself, okay, this has happened. What can I do now next? Like what's a good approach to deal with this situation? And I think that's when you realize that you can make steps forward again and you're not caught in this circle. That's more or less how I can describe it, how we experience this.
Yeah, I think that is what I've also heard other parents, moving from the why to the how. How are we gonna handle this. And I think it's a very, it's kind of like it's different stages that you go through. David, is this any of this? We haven't spoken to you yet. Is any of this recognizable for you?
Yes, I was diagnosed with my rare disease in 2017 at the age of 43. So whilst my child doesn't have a rare disease, I think kind of like what was interesting was like Klaus saying about the why. I think that was one thing I felt like that resonated with me. And I remember early on a guy with another rare condition saying to me, if you can accept you have a rare disease, that's half the battle. I think kind of like from my own perspective, I feel that it's really important to share to my daughter. My daughter's 18 now, but to share what I'm going through in a more adult way and how that impacts me and how, you know, I'm getting older now as well, and the importance of having open, honest conversations about what I'm going through and the importance of the changing relationship as a father with a rare disease to my daughter. So, you know, different, but kind of, yeah, it's encouraged me to have different, perhaps different conversations with my daughter.
But also, if we think back to our own parents, I think that they were kind of forced into a caregiver role in a much larger degree than maybe if their child did not have a disability. And this is also something that you are more aware of as you yourself grow up and you become a grown-up yourself. You know how they're changed, how their lives change, and how they had to adapt to their caregiver role, and how this also changes again when we ourselves are grown up. Have any of you reflected on that?
Yeah, I have for sure. I think, yeah, I think it's only now, like as in this day and age, that we're actually talking about how a diagnosis is delivered. So actually talking to the healthcare professionals on, yeah, instead of delivering a diagnosis in the sense that it's just like, here you go, you ordered a baby, but you got this kind of thing, and how that is developed, you know, and developing that sort of delivery of that can be really very impactful. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a parent myself, but I can definitely see that, you know, yeah, my parents unfortunately didn't have the resources themselves, not externally, but internally as well. I don't know how they were when they were given the diagnosis of me. I know my mum told me that she was shocked. That's all that she'll tell. But you know, it's yeah, we all have our sort of own inner demons, and I think that maybe a parent with a child with a rare condition or a rare disease, maybe they feel they have to give more to that, and sometimes they're just not capable, they're not able to. But I think it can very much start with how the diagnosis is delivered. That yeah, people with a rare condition or rare disease can live a normal, healthy, you know, life. We do want to live normally like everyone. But if it's been delivered initially that it's not the case, then that can really set the tone for the lifetime. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I also think that, as we said when we started this panel, that it's important for us to be able to be a whole person and present other parts of our identity. I think that is important for parents as well, to maintain different sides of their identity and not just be the mom and dad of a child with a rare condition. But I don't know how. I think it's important to support parents to maintain other sides of, you know, their other hobbies or roles or their occupations. I have read studies that mothers of children with disabilities, they are more than often out of work and and they find it very difficult to stay in work and stay employed. And this will also affect the identity. So, Kate, I see you are nodding there. Do you have any
No, I was
thoughts?
just absolutely agreeing, but we are back to resources, really, aren't we? And because I think professionals who work with families where they have a child with a rare or complex condition do understand that parents need that time out. But you have a lot of things to take into consideration, that they've been at the hospital at the very beginning. They've learned all of these very complex nursing type skills. And then when they go home, who else is there who can take that on for them? So there needs to be a resource, whether it is in a care team that supports them, or whether there's information sharing and training for members within the extended family. So it does, in my mind, it comes down to budgets, because I think the ideas, the knowledge is there. We appreciate that often the mother is the primary caregiver. The mother then often loses her identity, and it can implode. Relationships can implode. It can have an effect, a longer term effect on siblings as well. But so I think we have all of that knowledge, but the only way we get through it, I think, is having some kind of resources, some funding that will help to say it is okay to leave your child, because we're going to be able to provide somebody who can give the same level of care. But also accepting as well that sometimes family members really don't want to take on, and that's perfectly understandable. And because some children have very complex breathing problems, they might be on a ventilator, they might be of life-limiting condition, and that actually family and neighbours can do things like do the ironing, or make a cake, or take other children to the cinema and things like that, just to give the caregiver, the primary caregiver, a little bit of time. So it isn't just about putting in a respite team, if that makes sense. It's got lots of layers to it, but ultimately, I think a lot of it is to do with funding.
Yes. And then, of course, all of our countries have different kind of systems.
Yes, yes, indeed.
Here in Norway, we are very lucky to have, a lot of people have personal assistants. And I was well up into my grown-up years until I realized that also accepting assistance is another form of independence as well, that you can be independent through accepting assistance. Because I think sometimes if you are very dependent on your parents for help, it's very difficult to accept help from somebody outside of your family. It can seem very scary. But that is also a part of forming your identity and growing up. But this has to be learned from an early age.
It's built into the system, I think. Or it should be built into the system.
It should be. It should be. Yeah, yeah. Claus, how is it like in your country? Are there systems for assisting the family and helping these processes, or?
Well, unfortunately, not really. And that is why with my patient organization, we really put a strong emphasis on developing psychosocial support systems. And we really start with the first suspicion of the condition. So if parents hear that their child might be affected of neurofibromatosis type 1, they can make an appointment with a virtual family guidance, a counselor, for free, and they can just have someone to talk to. And the person who is giving this counseling service, she's a mother of a child with NF1 herself, so really this peer-to-peer support, but also a professional background that really makes a strong difference. And then we really try to offer support services throughout the different phases in life, like the very early stage of suspicion of diagnosis or confirmed diagnosis. Then when children are very young, we offer like family camps. For many parents, that's the first time that they get to meet other parents with affected children with the same condition. And they felt so alone and so isolated before because they don't know anybody with the same condition. And so it helps so much because they feel understood and they feel respected, and they don't have to explain it again and again and again and hear back very well-meant sentences like, "I'm sure it will not be that bad," or "everything will be all right." It's like it comes from a good place in their heart, but you don't feel taken seriously if you talk to someone like that. And then throughout age, we offer like social competence training for children and teenagers, and we have a rehabilitation service. And then for young adults, we offer services. So really, we try to, to accompany them along the way. And also, we offer programs for siblings, because it was mentioned before, like a sibling sometimes feels a lot of guilt, also maybe sometimes maybe even jealousy, because my brother, my sister is going to the hospital with mom and dad, and they are like they think it's kind of fun to do this and they feel left out sometimes. So it's very important to make them to include them in the conversations, to talk openly about this in the family, and to make sure that they understand why mom and daddy need to go to the hospital with the big sister or brother. And also to have some extra time for them, that they feel like they're in the middle at this certain day. It really is so important for us as a patient organization that we raise a lot of funds and invest a lot of money to build those type of services.
But this is something that you do through your organization and not something that is provided for you. No. So you are lucky if you have then the right condition that has a good patient organization. Yes. But David, you run a support group as well. Do you feel that this is also topics that are you able to offer this kind of support for people on how to accept help from others and different ways of being independent, or?
Well, I run a rare disease male mental health support group on Zoom for male patients, caregivers around the world. When I was diagnosed, I quickly became aware of many amazing female advocates, but there wasn't at that time particularly men. So 4 years ago, I set up my group on Zoom with the purpose of just guys getting together and talking about what they're going through, listening, and just normalizing kind of the challenges they have about being patients and caregivers. So I feel, whilst the group doesn't offer any practical solutions, I think it offers that space where we can normalize sharing our burdens. And I've always been amazed by how, despite different countries, cultures, maybe social classes, we do have more and different rare diseases. We do have more in common with the emotional mental health side of being impacted by rare diseases. So I think it's made a difference, and it's been impactful to some extent.
Yeah. I think it's very good that it's also specifically for men, because I think maybe we women are kind of like very dominant in this, in maybe a lot of the patient organizations. So it's very good that we have one for men specifically. That's great. It's all about really being comfortable in your own skin. And I think that, as Sophie was talking about, this is something that also evolves through life. I remember when I was a child, I don't think I really identified as a person with a disability. I just wanted to be like everybody else, as similar as I possibly could. I even thought that I thought I was going to be just like my older brother. I might even turn into a boy one day. I don't know. I was so focused on being like everybody else. And I think this kind of changes throughout life, and that we go through different stages. Also, I remember that my parents were not a part of a patient organization, because I don't think that they had the energy or the time. I don't think they couldn't take anything more on their plates at all. So I didn't really get to know any other children with my disability when I was a young child, not until I was like in my teenage years. And this kind of spiked the activism in me that Sophie described. And then I kind of like really wanted to be different and really wanted to show, what it was like to live with a disability. And then I think this kind of changes a bit again when you grow up and you are in your grown-up years, and you kind of realize that it's not either or, it's like it's both. How do you guys think? Do you have your feelings changed around having a rare condition throughout your life, or your feelings about being a parent from that initial shock phase? What would you say? I mean, you're not obviously in shock, still in shock. How would you say your feelings have changed?
I'm proud now. I can stand up and share, but sorry, I get a bit emotional here. I'm a lot older than all of you. I'm back in the 1950s when I was born. Most babies born with Bacterial Association died. And I spent all my formative years hiding my problems with continence. And I think maybe it is the last taboo when you don't talk about bladder and bowels and problems with all of that. But now I think because I've got to a point, and I think that's what you're saying about how you evolve and how you take, I don't know, you become more accepting of your condition, and also proud to have reached this stage in life where I can advocate for myself. I can also listen and try and empower other people with the knowledge about their condition, because some people who I meet have very little knowledge and have gone years of their life and don't have that knowledge about their condition, particularly people born quite a few years ago, because the information wasn't given to parents. They were told that they were fixed at surgery, or it would not be problems later in life. So yeah, it is a journey, a personal journey that is influenced by lots of things, but by the support of family and friends around you. But I think particularly for me, joining an organization which only in the last 5 years, and I felt then I'd taken off a huge overcoat of shame, and I've left it hanging up. I don't need it anymore.
No.
And because I've taken that, I'm not weighed down by it, so I can open my heart to other people going through similar situations, I think. So thank you.
And I think the patient organizations also help us to be proud. If you look at Rare Disease Day, I always get a bit emotional around a Rare Disease Day, because it feels so strong that we are many million people around the world and that we're all proud of having this rare condition. So, but there could also,
I think as well, we're a very good example for parents. If we have come to a place where we're comfortable in our skin, there is a balance, that there is a grief that's always there, a sadness that's always there, but also we balance our emotion. And I think that's really good for parents to see that there is life beyond this disability, this condition.
Can I share something?
Yes.
I would like to share something in CF. Last year's the development of new medicines, innovative medicines, has completely transformed our lives, our life expectancy, and also the way we perceive ourselves. For example, here in Greece, in the patient association, many patients in Greece that have access to the innovative therapies, their lives change completely. For example, we believe that we would die in a few years, but with the new medicines, everything has changed. And now we feel unsure how to live the rest of the new life. So this is a very interesting conversation, because now we have to understand to think from the beginning who we are, how does the future our future hold, do we deserve this second chance of life? And this is a difficult path, because I think that what helped us to understand is to learn how to embrace all this uncertainty and give ourselves a permission to take it one step at a time. I mean, to define our identity from the beginning, to explore who I am outside from the conditions, from CF, to set new goals, small goals, achievable goals. And it's very important what you have also said, to find support, because in our association in Greece, we have all these support groups all over Greece, with patients, with caregivers, with friends, with parents. And it's very important to share all this experience because you feel that you're not alone. There are so many people just like you. They feel the same thing. They have the same fears, the same obstacles every day in their life, the same expectations. So it's very important to connect to the community, to be connected to all these people and to speak open about all these things. And I don't know, we are going to see the new life, how it will be.
Yes, yes, the new phases of our condition, as we have all these new drugs that are gonna influence how our conditions evolve and develop. And will that also impact our organizations, do we think, and these peer-to-peer meetings that go on?
Yeah, I mean, I think just for achondroplasia at the moment, there is drugs that it's very new in the stage, but at the moment, the way I see it in the patient groups is that it's actually dividing the community, because there are people that think, well, why should we change? Maybe society needs to change. But then there are others that are saying that actually, yeah, I wish this was developed sooner, or yeah, I wish I could get it, or different things like that. So I think the space to watch more interestingly now is how those patient groups come out of this. And I know I only speak from the case of achondroplasia, but at the moment I see it globally dividing based on that. We don't need to be fixed. It's society. And then, obviously on the other hand, which I think both, I don't have a say in this. I remain fully neutral, but I see people getting really emotional on both aspects as well. Yeah.
And even if we don't have the same drug in my patient community, we do have drugs that will impact the amount of fractures that you have throughout life. And I do feel a difference between the grown-ups with the condition and the parents with the condition, because the parents have different expectations now, because they have more options than what the grown-ups had. So this will also, I think, maybe influence or have an impact on our identity. So that's why it's so good that we have these kind of discussions, I think, so that we can learn from each other and that we can share these kind of different thoughts that we have. But it's a kind of a side of drug development that is not very well addressed, I think. I haven't heard of many other arenas for having these kind of discussions. I don't know what it's like in your conditions, Klaus and David. Do you have any new drugs on the horizon that will change the face of your conditions, or?
In neurofibromatosis type 1, we had like the very first drug ever to be approved about 3 years ago, but it's not a cure. It's for treating one specific tumor type, and in neurofibromatosis type 1, there's lots of different tumors that can form, and also many other health issues like orthopedic issues as well, like bone manifestations are quite common in NF1, but also a lot of neuropsychological issues like learning difficulties, autism spectrum disorder, ADHD. So just the neuropsychological issues alone is a long list. So there's still so much to do in terms of research to better manage eventual disease-related health issues or neuropsychological issues. And for me, for our patient organization, it really is part of our self-empowerment to put ourselves into a position where we can work with researchers, for example, on developing or doing outcome research together to really define what is the outcome that we should look at when we do a clinical trial? What is the success from the patient's perspective? Because that might be totally different to what the researchers have in mind. And also understanding that stable disease is a huge success for most patients and caregivers. Like, well, if I'm going to just stay like this and I feel really fine right now, that's a huge success. But most researchers want to go for the big win, to see tumor reduction in a very short time window. And I can just imagine that many potential drugs that could cause stable disease are lost in the process. So I hope that we can continue to work together with researchers and make them look through the patients and caregivers' perspective to maybe open up totally new doors.
We have to show them that we are comfortable in our own skin and that we have to define the outcomes of the research. I agree. Very well said. So the last point that I kind of wanted to touch on in this panel was the part that the positive side of having a rare condition. I think that we have actually already touched quite a lot on it, but we do know that having a rare condition can bring some tough life experience, but there is also a positive side, and we have already said that we are now proud of having a rare condition, that it has given us the chance to be a part of organizations that has meant a lot to us. We wouldn't be who we are if we didn't have our rare conditions. So then the classic question would be, if you had met your younger self, how would you prepare that person, or what kind of special advice would you have for that young person to help them navigate this identity process that we all go through? Does anybody want to start?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, Sophia.
No, Anna, you go.
Okay, thank you. I think that we all want to speak about this topic.
Yeah.
I was in oxygen support about 3 or 4 years, and I was unable to take care of myself. So now here I am. What CF taught me. CF has saved me in ways that I never expected. It teaches me to be compassionate, to have compassion, to have resilience, and to understand and appreciate the value of every minute of life. In difficult times, I remind myself of the strengths that I have gained from all these difficult situations and challenges that I have overcome. I'm still alive, and I think that my advice is to focus on the positives, elements of the rare condition, because it's very important to celebrate even the smallest victories, and to allow yourself to feel pride and how far we have come until now. And I think that I would say to my younger self that please remember that CF is a part of you. It doesn't define you. It doesn't limit what you wish, your dreams. It doesn't limit your dreams. You can do whatever you wish. You can do whatever you have dreamed about your life. This advice I would give to my younger self.
That's great. And Sophie?
Yeah, I think in a nutshell for me, it would be you are not the problem. And I know that sort of maybe, it's sort of a negative approach, but I think whenever you're different than what the normal is, and that is very broad. It doesn't just relate to disability. It can relate to race or color or height or weight or hair color, anything. It's if I could tell myself now, the moments where I think it's me, I'm the problem. It's not that. It's not that. And I remember as a child growing up, I felt that I had the weight of everything on top of me, and that it was all me. It was all my problem. It was all my fault or whatever. It's not that.
No,
It's
no.
not that at all.
Excellent, excellent.
I think
Maybe
also,
I can also add something. Oh, Kate, please go first.
no, sorry. I think also, speaking to my younger self, would be that you're not the only one in the world, because these conditions are so rare. You think you are the only one, and that makes you feel very isolated, very lonely, very sad. So that would be the first thing. But also that if you can look beyond yourself, you realize that there are lots of other issues that people are managing, whether it is a physical disability, whether emotional, people from a very young age who have mental health problems, they have suicidal thoughts. So they might appear that they look as if their life is rosy. They may well be really struggling because their parents are arguing all the time, or there is abuse at home. And so there's lots of things that are happening to make people, you can have this impression that other people's lives are wonderful, and when you're a child, in actual fact, they're not necessarily that way. So it'll be saying that to my younger self, I think, look beyond
Everyone has something.
yourself.
Everyone has something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, a challenge.
Klaus?
Yeah, I think if I would give my younger dad an advice, or as a child, and you once will have a child with a rare disease, I would maybe give myself the advice: don't be scared, because at first I was really paralyzed, scared, like petrified, like oh my God, I don't know what will happen in the future. And I would tell myself that this child will be the greatest gift of your life. It will be the biggest source of inspiration and strength. It will help you to move mountains and to just turn a very really at first terrible news into something good. And it's really what I learned from my daughter, to really to be brave. My daughter taught me so many things, but bravery and courage is what I learned from her. And that's needed as a patient advocate.
Yes, it is. Yes. And David?
Yeah, I think what I would say to my younger self is, or when I was first diagnosed, is the importance that things take time, whether that be treatments, cures, and advocacy and awareness. But also, I feel having a rare disease I don't feel in fear of what may happen to my life. It's given me more of a sense of appreciation of life over time, the everyday stuff, and people that I love in my life love me back. So, yeah, that's what I would say.
Great. Well, I think we've had a good chat, and I've enjoyed it. I do feel again that we have a lot in common, even though we have very different, some of us are parents and some of us have it ourselves, and we have very different kinds of rare diseases. But we do definitely have a lot of things in common, and we do go through some of the similar life experiences. And that's why it's so great to be a part of Eurordis, and great to be a part of these events. So thank you, Concha.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Rebecca, for this wonderful session. And thank you to all our panelists and to our audience as well. I think you have seen the hearts and the applauses. It has been really, really inspiring, more than usual. So thank you so much for that. I don't think we have questions from the audience in the chat, not yet. Let me check. Not yet. Well, if after this session you feel you would have missed the question, please feel free to send me a message and I will address it to our great panelists. So I give back the floor to Ana Espino, so she's gonna close the session for us. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Concha. And I think that you will all agree that we had an incredible discussion today. And so I want to thank everyone for joining us for this webinar. I think that it was very inspiring to hear all the stories, these insights, and these perspectives shared by the panelists. Today we discussed about the ways that rare conditions shape our sense of self. We speak about the challenges finding self-worth beyond the rare condition, the evolving nature of our identity across different life stages, and also the impact on family relationships and the role of caregivers. And what is more, the importance of support, of advocacy, of self-acceptance. And I think that the highlights included in these cancers on embracing our self-identity or finding strength in the power of community and shared experience, on what advocated for a more understanding society, and also recognizing the positive aspects of living with a rare condition. So I hope this conversation left you feeling empowered and connected. And I think that I would like to tell you that we have to remember that we are not defined by our condition. It's just one part of who we are. And we are so much more than that. And that we have the strength to face challenges, to overcome them, and the ability to thrive. So before we close, I leave you with a few takeaways. The first is reach out, because there is power in shared experience and the connection can combat isolation. And the second is advocate, because your voice can bring change and awareness to the society. And the third, to accept and celebrate our identity, to embrace our complexities and our strengths. So thank you all for being part of this wonderful webinar, and I wish you to have a nice day. Thank you, everyone. Bye.